What is vibing? This is Vish, and today I'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on the secret language of birds. Also, if you can hit that subscribe button, I'll be truly grateful. I'm a meditation coach and I've guided hundreds of people on their meditation journeys. If you have any questions as to how to start, either comment down below or message me on Instagram at VishVibes. Sadhguru is a yogi, mystic, and visionary who is enlightening the world. I even recently got initiated into Shambhavi Mahamudra, a powerful meditation by Sadhguru, and I am truly grateful for his presence. Let's see what he has to say about birds. Wow. Before I even continue, I just want to point out how beautiful nature is. These are things that we tend to take for granted, and just look at these birds and even the ocean, the leaves, the sky. Life is not only an intelligent being, but it's beautiful.
One thing that we can know from birds, probably better than any meteorological instruments, is if we listen to them carefully, we would know the meteorological conditions or the weather patterns very well. Many studies have observed this. On the banks of Ganga and also Narmada river, certain birds which nest very close to the water, by looking at where they build the nest, at what height, people know whether this year there is going to be a flood or not. I'm saying the birds build this nest at least 4 months before monsoons.
Wow.
But they will build the nest much lower if the rains are not going to be too heavy and there's not going to be any flood. But if there is going to be a flood, they will build it way higher up. Just by observing this, traditionally people have always known this year it's going to flood, this year it's not going to flood. So obviously, before any of the normal what our instruments can read in terms of meteorological conditions, before water vapor, temperature, other things manifest, already there are signs in nature which a bird is able to see. Probably among human beings, one creature who pays maximum attention to meteorological conditions is an aviator. A farmer to some extent, but much more an aviator, because one who wants to fly is always watching out for the weather, because that will decide whether you're going to fly or not, whether you will fly all the way to another world or you're going to land in this world. A lot depends on the weather. So, birds being avians, probably they have learned to pay attention to nature in terms of meteorological conditions like nobody else. There are many other aspects. One knows about the migratory patterns of the birds.
Amazing.
Very distinctly, they know the weather patterns, otherwise they cannot make this flight, long-distance flights across continents. Maybe ocean-going people, that's why the pirates had a parrot they didn't have a GPS.
That's an interesting point.
So, reading weather patterns and wind patterns, one who has to fly. Today, our flight is powered by very brutally powerful engines. But if you were to power yourself just by your own wing, the wind patterns are paramount significance. If you don't know the wind, there is no way to fly. At an early age, when I started wanting to fly hang gliders, sitting and observing the wind for days on end before you actually fly. I know how important the wind is, whether it takes you up or slaps you down, is a very few people, except aviators, among humans, understand the significance of wind, how even subtle changes in the wind will determine what happens to you, especially if you're doing flight without… not powered flight, unpowered wing flight. If you do, you will see it's extremely important. Maybe kite flyers would also notice to some extent, but not to the same extent. So if one wants to know weather, definitely listening to birds would be great. Maybe not all of them. Those who soar in the sky, those who depend very much on rising in the
And just the color of the sky
without
too.
flapping their
Beautiful.
wings. All these birds have an enormous ability to know the weather patterns and the wind patterns.
First, let's take a quick second and take a nice deep breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. That was a beautiful video and a very cool insight about birds which I wasn't aware of. Now, just to pose a question, which is okay, and it's to wonder to what extent what Sadhguru was saying is true about birds. There wasn't much of a scientific backing behind what he said, and that's okay. Like he says, and what I've understood from spirituality, a huge part of it is all about the experience. So if you can experience something, that is all that matters. Because the truth can only be experienced. It can't be explained or it can't be answered. And so for that, I do trust in his talks because he is a guru. And as he describes, a guru is one who sheds light in the darkness. And so I will take his word. Now with regards to the bird and how beautiful not only the creature is, but the natural intelligence that is contained in the bird with predicting the seasons and rainfall and all sorts of things that we can't really predict. Now, as he says, it's not that humans don't have the capabilities. In fact, we are super beings, or as he says it, if we become so ordinary, we'll become extraordinary. And being a human being is truly a beautiful thing because we have the ability to not only be conscious, because everything else is conscious too in the universe. We have the ability to be conscious of being conscious, being the observer of the observer. This is what sets us apart from other creatures. And a lot of the instinctual intelligence that we have with regards to predicting the weather, for example, and a lot of other things that animals do, really has just been lost with the obstruction of societal conditioning and the mind pretty much taking over the intelligence that we have. The mind is really just an accumulation of thoughts and talks and feelings that is generated not only from the inside but from the outside. So the character that we have, the persona, the personality, is not even us. It's not even me. It's a reflection of the society that we live in. Just think about it, the views that people have. How often do you come across someone that has very different views from where they're from? That is a huge part of why we must learn to detach from that egoic mind and become union with that universe. That universe has the most powerful intelligence. Just look at the fact that the sun rose today. Everything is in line. Everything is happening. The reality of the world is happening so perfectly. It's the thoughts and feelings that we have that tend to obscure the appreciation and the reality of what is going on. Let us learn from the birds, as Sadhguru says. Thank you so much for watching this response to Sadhguru's video on the birds. I appreciate you taking the time. Take this joyfully, make your day, and stay conscious.